Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial on Blue Smoke in the version of Tommy Emmanuel. Let's get the usual stuff out of the way first. The full lesson is split up into several parts and only the first part will be released on YouTube. For full access you can check out my website or my Patreon page. Both offer different perks at different pricing points, so there should be something for everyone. If you want the tab and notation file, then do head over to the website, look up the song and click on the music notes icon. That way you'll get a 20% discount. No account or login is necessary to do this. So after doing lessons on Doc's guitar and Cannonball Rag, we continue down the same road with Blue Smoke, another blazing high-speed instrumental written by Merle Travis that Tommy likes to play in a sort of medley with those previously mentioned songs. Just like those other songs, Blue Smoke is a great technique builder, and it still sounds fine if you play it a lot slower. This song is in fact the easiest song in that medley by far to get your fingers around at a lower pace. There are lots of open chords, a fairly standard picking pattern is being used, and the highly technical sections are spread out a little bit more. Tommy again takes a lot of liberties with the song to such an extent this time that it is almost a different tune when compared to Merle Travis's original. This first part of the tutorial is long because I'm going over some different options for the fretting hand. After that we can pick up some speed because the song does make use of a lot of repeating parts. As always, when aiming for higher tempos, make sure you don't dig in too hard so you can keep the picking hand relaxed at all times. Good luck. To playing then, the guitar is in standard tuning and I'm using a capo on the 2nd fret, as Tommy is doing. Now, I guess this has mostly to do with the fact that Tommy plays this song in a medley with other songs with the capo on the 2nd fret. The original does not use a capo on the 2nd fret, so if you're not playing this together with Doc's guitar and Cannonball Rag, you can leave out the capo and just play it in A minor. I'm also using a thumb pick, which has mostly to do with the really high tempo we're ultimately going to be aiming for. If you're going to play this a bit slower, then I guess it's going to work as well without a thumb pick. That being said, we're going to dive straight into the intros, just 4 chords back to back, always the same picking pattern. Throughout the entire tutorial, I'm going to dive well below concert speed each time I'm going to play something for you, so you have a first good look at what you're up against. Here we go, the intro. So that is below concert speed. Tommy plays it a lot faster than this. Let's go over the chords. We play an A minor chord first. You can use the traditional fingering, middle finger, ring finger, index finger, but if it's possible, then you can also play the D string and the G string together with just the middle finger, and this will already make the change of fingering a little bit more efficient, which is going to be important if you want to play it really fast. So either A minor like this, or with the middle finger on both the D string and the G string at the same time. Then over to a G chord, but you only need the low E string, 3rd fret, together with an open D string, G string and B string. I think Tommy does fret the 2nd fret on the A string, but you don't need it. You're not going to play this a single time. Then over to an F chord. Tommy uses the thumb over the side of the neck on the 1st fret, and then a ring finger, middle finger, index finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret on the D string, G string and B string. And then you move down to an E chord, a full E chord. Again, Tommy plays 2 strings at the same time with the middle finger, this time the A string and the D string. Now you're never going to play the A string, so you could just as well grab this open E string, middle finger, 2nd fret on the D string, index finger, 1st fret on the G string, and then 2 open strings. But if you want some extra safety, pressing down with the middle finger on the A string at the same time is exactly what Tommy is doing. Now it is possible to swap out that F chord for a bar as well, but this is probably going to hamper your ability or your efficiency in such a way that you're going to have to drop the tempo slightly. When going over the picking pattern, I'm going to give you a second option for that F chord as well. The picking pattern is always the same thing. Thumb pick on the root note, the first time that is going to be the A string, then index finger on the G string, and then thumb pick to the D string, and middle finger on the B string. That is the picking pattern. 1, 2. And then from the G chord on, the root note is always on the low E string. The index finger still on the G string, the second bass note still on the D string, and the middle finger still on the B string. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Always the exact same picking pattern, no difference. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, two things that I'm going to have to mention is once you play this up to speed, that last note of the arpeggio becomes a little bit blurry. In quite a few of Tommy's versions, if you really slow them down, that very last arpeggiated note, at full speed, that last note often already is the first note of the next chord. So just because he has to switch around so quickly, that last first fret will often end up as the open B string already for the G chord. And that gives us another option for that F chord. So if you play A minor to G, and now you sort of anticipate on the fact that that last arpeggiated note is going to be an open B string, you can grab the F chord like this. 1, 2, 3. And then you have that open B string that rings into the E chord. It's a little bit of cheating, but at those really high tempos, I don't think anyone is going to notice. So the original version, with the C on top, and now, so it is really clear at this tempo that I'm leaving out that last first fret on the F chord, but it does sort of remove the necessity to play it with the thumb over the side of the neck. You can just use the index finger and you don't even have to drop down a bar. So that is basically option 3. Using a bar is possible too. But it is going to blow by so quickly that this is probably going to sort of limit your ultimate speed potential when playing this intro. So again, see what works for you. Thumb, the partial F chord, or the full bar. Then as a second point, when you're playing this up to speed, you're going to notice that all sorts of hammer-ons and pull-offs start popping up without even wanting it. So when you move from that A minor chord to the G chord and you put your F chord down, you're already, those open strings are going to ring out and you're already going to produce some chord tones. Don't worry about that too much. This also happens with Tommy, but again, the tempo is so high that you barely notice this. So up until now, I really paid attention to play this as cleanly as possible. Now I'm going to sort of forget about that muting technique and I'm just going to let everything overlap. And then you get this. See, so it's really light, but every time I'm switching from that E chord, you sort of get a really light hammer-on moving back to that A minor chord. And whenever I switch from the G chord to the F chord, you're going to hear some ghost notes in the back. Don't worry about that too much. But that was the full intro. Maybe let me just add one more little thought on the fingering of that A minor chord. If you manage to go for the middle finger on those two strings, you'll see that you end up with probably the most efficient fingering for this section, which means that every digit, every finger is responsible for one fret and you never have to switch over. So A minor to G to F to E, See, it's always index finger in the first fret, middle finger in the second fret, ring finger in the third fret. If you start with the A minor chord, it's not that big of a deal, but there is already a little bit more jumping around going on, especially if you, for instance, want to grab the full E chord like this as well. So this is really efficient. See, and this is what allows Tommy to play that at that really high pace. But that was the full intro. I'm going to play through it one more time, slowly, with the magnet on the guitar, giving you a good look at the picking hand as well. Here we go. See, and don't worry too much about those extra hammer-ons. It all adds to the overall effect once you play it up to speed. And then we're ready to dive into the first verse. The first verse is a double verse, but as you will see, it's basically the exact same thing 2 times in a row. Here we go, one time through verse 1. And straight into the bridge. Short and sweet, only 2 chords. We start with an A minor chord, standard fingering, and now Tommy, most of the time, he goes for those 2 fingers as well, middle finger and index finger. While performing those hammer-ons, I'm still a bit more comfortable just going for a standard A minor chord. You have a bit more time on each chord shape, so this time you can go for the traditional fingering. And then moving to E dominant 7. Again, Tommy plays this with only the middle finger down below. I'm just going to use the full voicing. So A minor to E dominant. And Tommy is only going to do middle finger, index finger on both chords. You play that 2 times in a row. A minor to E dominant, A minor to E dominant, and then A minor on the 5th fret, small bar across 3 strings, G string, B string, E string on the 5th fret, adding the ring finger on the 7th fret on the D string. And then we're moving down to an F chord again. Tommy goes for the same voicing as in the intro, thumb over the side of the neck with a bend on the B string. If this turns out to be too tricky, then you can play a full bar and you're going to end up with a standard F dominant 7th chord shape. Bar across all 6 strings on the 1st fret, ring finger 3rd fret on the A string, middle finger 2nd fret on the G string, and the pinky 4th fret on the B string. Before we end up there, after that, you're going to play another A minor chord, and that already concludes the verse. The picking pattern isn't too tricky. You start with just a bass note, and then the D string together with an open B string, and you're going to hammer on the index finger to the 1st fret. 1 and 2 and. Make sure that that hammer on is exactly in time, 2 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3. To the low E string, and then an open E string on top. That is the timing of the first bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Even a bit slower maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Switching to the E chord, and right away you drop the pinky on the 3rd fret on the B string. You play the low E string together with the aforementioned 3rd fret on the B string with the pinky, and you pull off to an open B string. 1, 2, bass note on the D string, and then an open E string on top. And Tommy, in whatever version you watch, is going to make a dedicated effort to mute that open E string right away. He keeps it really short. And after that, you just keep going through the bass part. This time it's only E string, D string, E string, D string. Just that section on the E chord. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe even a bit slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. A minor and E back to back. And that muting is done in part with this hand, putting the finger back down, and also really quickly dropping down one finger. You could do it with the pinky or the index finger, just quickly muting that top E string. Then back to the same A minor chord shape. Now it's all on the bass notes. G string together with the open A string, then D string together with the B string, already holding the first fret down now. 1, 2, 3. Low E string together with an open E string, both of them open, and one more bass note on the D string. 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, Tommy makes a dedicated effort to separate each and every note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really short back to back. And then we move to the same E dominant chord. No differences compared to the second bar, exactly the same thing. So bars 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in some versions he lets that last open E string on that A minor chord ring out, in other ones he mutes it. But those first two notes are always muted. Those were the first 4 bars. Let's have a quick playthrough, just that opening section of the verse. And then we move up to the 5th fret, to the bar chord, 5th fret, ring finger on the 7th fret, bass note on the open A string. Now, before I forget, Tommy does fret this section with the thumb over the side of the neck on the 5th fret, but it's the exact same bass note as the open A string. If you want to go full Tommy, then replace each and every open A string with the thumb on the 5th fret on the low E string, but it sounds exactly the same if you play it with the open A string. So Tommy plays open A string together with the high E string, 1, 2, dropping down the pinky on the 8th fret, playing it together with the bass note on the D string. 1, 2, 3, back to the A string, removing the pinky, playing the 5th fret on the B string. And then all the way at the end, bass note on the D string together with the melody note, 5th fret on the G string. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now paying really close attention to always head back to the A string, but I think even just playing through this in the opening section, I alternated to the low E string as well. Which is possible if you're not playing with the thumb over the side of the neck. So either all on the A string, A string and E string, or with the thumb over the side of the neck like Tommy's doing. But that just seems in this case like it is unnecessarily difficult, because the tricky section is now coming up. You move down to the 1st fret. Thumb over the side of the neck, you're going for an F chord, but not right away. Tommy adds the pinky to the 3rd fret on the B string and is going to bend this up. And by grabbing the rest of the chord, you can sort of assist that pinky in getting up that half step. So what is happening is you're bending up over 2 counts. 1, 2, 3. And you end back up on the 3rd fret, just releasing the bend with the string in axis again, and you play the low E string together with the 3rd fret on the B string again. 1, 2, 3. And you see that I'm sort of pushing up these other fingers as well. If the muting is correct here, that is not going to be that apparent in the end result. 1, 2, 3. Back to the low E string and the B string at the same time. And then as you head for the last bass note, you remove the pinky and you play the D string together with the B string 1st fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is tricky. People who have played Windy and Warm, this is going to feel somewhat familiar, but it's perfectly possible to solve this with the bar chord as well. So bar, as we mentioned before, just an F dominant chord shape, and you can slide up with the pinky from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds almost the same, you're just missing out on that bend. So if that bend is complicated, or if you're playing this on a nylon string guitar, this is going to be the solution. Sliding up with the pinky, bass note on the D string, pinky back down, and then removing the pinky altogether and play the 1st fret that sits on that bar. So, coming from that A minor chord, you either have this, with the bend, or with the bar, which almost sounds the same. It's only that bend that you're missing out on. And then we head back into an A minor chord. And in this case now I'm doing the pull-off with 2 fingers. I think in the introduction I only did the pull-off with the ring finger. Both are an option. Tommy does the pull-off with the entire chord. A string together with 2nd fret on the G string. Pulling off straight away, either with 2 fingers or only the ring finger. Then put everything back down for the bass note on the D string. 1 and 2 and repick the G string separately on the 2nd half of the 2nd beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And on the 4th beat, thumb pick on the D string, index finger on the G string. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last bar is just open A string, open E string, ring finger 3rd fret to the 4th fret, and then leading back into an A minor chord. Those 2 bars back to back. And as you can hear, there is a little bit of side noise because of that 2-fingered pull-off. If you're playing this a little bit slower, just using the ring finger might be a bit cleaner. And back into the A minor chord. That was the 1st half of the 1st verse, but rest assured you can basically play each and every verse of the whole song now. Those last 4 bars one more time, starting on the 5th fret bar chord. And into the next section. Those first 8 bars all the way through. Next 8 bars, exactly the same thing, not a single change apart from the last bar. There is 1 extra chord in there. But the first 7 bars, exactly the same thing. All the same things. And there is that extra chord, E augmented. Tommy goes for this fingering. Open E string, pinky 6th fret on the D string, ring finger 5th fret on the G string, and index finger 3rd fret on the B string. Picking pattern 1, 2, chord on the 2nd beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just keep picking through the bass part, E string, D string, E string, D string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then for the next chord he just drops this fingering down 1 fret and adds an open A bass string. This move, just sliding this down, brings along some extra movements for the next chord. I like to play this chord not using the pinky, but playing like this. It's a bit of a stretch, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, and this will make the section on the next chord in the bridge a little bit easier. So see what works for you. It's not that much of a difference, so if the stretch with the ring finger is bothering you, then go for the pinky, ring finger and index finger, and otherwise ring finger, middle finger and index finger. But that is the full verse. So maybe one more time, those last 2 bars. And just basically plucking through the whole bass part for that last bar. And that was the full first verse, the only double verse of the whole song. Everything else is going to be only 8 bars. This one was 16 bars. So let me play through those last 8 bars one more time, a little bit slower, and then connect everything together with the magnet on the guitar. Last 8 bars. And moving into the A chord. And now one more time through the whole thing, well below concert speed, with the magnet on the guitar, giving you a good look at the picking hand. Here we go. And then we move into the bridge. The bridge is something for part 2 of the tutorial. For those of you watching on YouTube, this is the time to switch over to my Patreon page or my website. I'll see you there. Take care. Bye bye.